In a quiet corner of the world, beyond the jagged mountains and the silver rivers that shimmered under the moonlight, there lay a village called Elderglen. Hidden deep within a soft, green valley surrounded by gentle hills, the village was cradled by towering willow trees that swayed like watchful guardians in the breeze. Elderglen was known not for its size or splendor, but for its peace. A place where the wind sang lullabies through the leaves and the nights were filled with the calming hum of crickets and distant owl calls. In Elderglen, time moved a little slower. The people rose with the sun and rested with the stars. They lit lanterns every evening at twilight, not just to light the paths, but to welcome the night gently, as one would a dear friend. Each lantern's glow added to a chain of warmth that stretched from door to door, lane to lane, illuminating the cobbled paths and stone bridges that crossed the sleepy brooks. Among the villagers was a young man named Rowan. He lived in a timber-framed cottage with a moss-covered roof at the very edge of the village, where the lantern path curled into the woods. Rowan was neither knight nor scholar. He was a lantern maker. Each morning, after the dew had lifted and the birds began to sing, he would walk to his workshop, a cozy little building with a round window and ivy creeping up the walls. There, Rowan shaped lanterns from iron and glass, wood and brass. Some were shaped like stars, others like curling leaves or flowers just about to bloom. Each one held a small story, etched into its design with quiet care. And though Rowan was young, his hands were steady, his heart gentle, and his eyes full of wonder. He loved the way the light flickered within his creations, as if tiny dreams danced inside them. Rowan had never left Elderglen, but he often dreamed of the world beyond the willow veil. He would lie on the grassy hill behind his cottage, staring up at the night sky and imagining distant lands. Castles on clouds, forests of singing trees, markets where dragons whispered fortunes in riddles. But he was content in his little home, crafting light for the village and listening to the wind. One evening, just as Rowan finished polishing a lantern shaped like a crescent moon, a soft knock came at his door. When he opened it, he found an old woman wrapped in a deep green cloak. Her silver hair flowed like water over her shoulders, and her eyes sparkled with the quiet weight of time. "Good evening, lantern maker," she said kindly, her voice like the rustle of old parchment. "Might I ask for a lantern to guide my journey?" Rowan smiled and invited her in. "Of course, but where are you going this late, if I may ask?" She smiled gently. "To the forest, beyond the willow veil. There is an old path, forgotten by most, that leads to the heart of the woods. I must follow it tonight." Rowan hesitated. The forest is deep, and no one has walked its heart in years. Some say there are strange things there. The old woman nodded. "Indeed, but there are old magics that still live in quiet places. I seek one such magic. It won't come to harm me, but I need light to find it." Rowan thought for a moment, then selected the lantern he had just finished, the moon-shaped one, warm and soft in its glow. "Take this one," he said. "Its light is gentle, and it was made while I thought of journeys." She accepted it with a grateful bow. "Thank you, Rowan. Your kindness will not be forgotten. If you ever feel the pull of adventure, follow the lantern path beneath the willows. You may find more than you expect." With that, she stepped into the evening mist, the light of the moon lantern casting a silver trail behind her. Rowan watched her disappear into the trees. He felt a small tug in his chest, like a string being gently pulled. The forest had always been there, mysterious, quiet, ancient, and now, for the first time, it felt as if it was calling to him. He returned to his cottage, lit a lantern by the window, and sat quietly for a while. Outside, the night whispered through the willows, and the moon rose higher. Little did Rowan know, his days of quiet crafting were about to change. A path had opened, lit by the very light he had created. And somewhere in the deep, sleeping woods, something ancient stirred, waiting for the lantern maker who dreamed of stars. The following morning, Rowan awoke early. The dew was thick on the grass, and the air smelled of pine and honey. The village was quiet, the fires still slumbering in hearths. but his mind hummed with the memory of the silver-haired woman and her words. As he ate a simple breakfast of honeyed oats and stewed apples, he glanced out the window at the woods. The willows stood tall and still, their branches brushing the mist like fingers stroking water. For years he had admired the forest from a distance. Its edge dappled in sunlight and shadow, but now it felt different. Felt like a threshold. Later that day, as Rowan wandered the market square to deliver a few finished lanterns to the baker, the seamstress, and the blacksmith, he heard murmurs among the townsfolk. "Did you see it?" The old baker whispered to the blacksmith. "A light in the woods, moving slow, like someone walking the path." "Aye," said the blacksmith, his brows furrowed. "And birds flying strange patterns. I haven't seen sparrows act like that in years." Rowan's heart skipped. Could it have been the woman, or something else? That evening, Rowan stood at the forest's edge with a lantern in hand. He hesitated, the grass brushing his boots, the trees whispering like old friends sharing secrets. He looked back at Elderglen, warm lights glowing in every window, the soft sound of a flute from the tavern, laughter from the miller's porch. He could stay. He could keep making lanterns and tending to the village. But the pull was too strong now. His hands tightened on the lantern's wooden handle. He stepped forward. The moment he passed beneath the willows, the world changed. It wasn't sudden. No flash, no sound. Just a deepening of the air. The light dimmed softly, like twilight, even though the sun still hovered above the horizon. The path beneath his feet was cobbled but worn, as if many had once walked it and then forgotten it. Tiny lights blinked in the underbrush. Lantern moths, creatures of the old wood, rare and shy. Their wings shimmered like stained glass, and as Rowan walked deeper, they followed him like stars drifting on wind. Hours passed, or maybe it was minutes. Time was different here. The trees grew older as he walked, not taller but wiser. Their trunks were thick with bark that curled like ancient scrolls, and their roots wove across the ground like veins of a sleeping giant. He came upon a stone arch, half swallowed by moss and ivy. Above it, faint words were etched in a forgotten tongue. Rowan paused. The arch felt like another threshold, and beyond it, the air shimmered faintly, like heat over a road on a summer's day. He stepped through. On the other side, the world was quiet, utterly still. Rowan now stood in a circular glade, ringed with silver-barked trees that glowed faintly under the starlight. In the center of the glade was a stone well, covered with vines and etched with spirals. Atop the well sat the moon lantern he had given to the old woman, but she was nowhere in sight. Rowan approached cautiously. The lantern's light pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. He reached out, and as his fingers touched the metal, warmth spread through his chest, and a soft voice whispered in his mind, "Welcome, lantern-bearer." Rowan jerked back, eyes wide. But there was no danger, no fear, only wonder. He stepped forward again and picked up the lantern. As he did, the spirals on the well began to glow faintly, revealing a map carved in light. A map of the forest with trails winding in all directions. At the center was a symbol of a flame, a living flame, the heart of the forest. The voice whispered again, "You are chosen to rekindle it." Before Rowan could speak, the light faded, and the map vanished. But the sense of purpose remained. He had been chosen, not by a person, but by the forest itself. His lanterns, crafted with care and heart, had awakened something old and slumbering. And now, the forest had called him to light its heart once more. He slung the lantern over his shoulder, its glow steady and warm, and as he stepped beyond the glade, deeper into the ancient woods, he felt no fear, only wonder. Rowan walked beneath the canopy, deeper into the ancient forest than any villager had gone in living memory. The lantern swung gently from his hand, casting soft ripples of golden light that touched every fern, root, and fallen leaf with warmth. Wherever the light fell, the shadows pulled back as if sighing in relief. The trees here were unlike those near Elderglen. Their bark shimmered faintly with silver-green hues, and their leaves whispered words, not in any language Rowan knew, but with intent he could feel. Some trees whispered encouragement. Others warned of places not to tread. And a few simply hummed softly, like lullabies sung by earth and time. Along the path, Rowan found ancient markers. Stone posts with carved lanterns, moss-covered benches, and winding steps cut directly into tree trunks. It was clear now this path had been walked before. Long ago, by others like him. He stopped at a stream to rest. Its waters were clear and cool, and fish with glowing fins darted between the rocks. As he dipped his hands into the stream, a soft blue light floated up from beneath the surface, an orb no larger than a robin's egg. It pulsed once, then drifted toward him and hovered near his shoulder. Rowan blinked. "Are you a guide?" The orb gave no reply, but began to float gently ahead on the trail, casting pale light. Taking that as a yes, Rowan followed. They passed through a grove of trees that bowed overhead, forming a tunnel of bark and leaves. Here, the air was thick with petals that floated like snow. Every step stirred a faint chime, though no wind stirred the branches. Rowan felt peace wash over him like a warm blanket. The orb flickered with calm, slow pulses. Further ahead, a tree unlike any other blocked the path. It was tall and pale, with branches that twisted upward like reaching hands. But its trunk was split wide, and from the center, a dim light pulsed. Rowan approached and realized it wasn't a tree at all, but a door made of living wood. On its surface was carved an old riddle: to pass beyond and find the flame, bring forth the light from which you came, but dim it not nor make it burn, for gentle glow the heart will learn. Rowan understood. He raised the lantern slowly. Not too bright, not too dim, just enough to cast a steady warmth. The living door shuddered softly, then opened. Beyond it lay a vast clearing with 5 paths splitting outward in different directions, like the spokes of a wheel. In the center of the clearing stood a pedestal with an empty holder, just the right size for a lantern. Rowan stepped closer and placed his lantern into the holder. As he did, the orb floated over the pedestal and slowly spun in place. The light from the lantern grew, touching each of the 5 paths. When the glow met the trees, images appeared among the trunks. Memories, like smoke and dream. In one, a snowy mountaintop where an ancient fire flickered, surrounded by carved stone. In another, a deep cave beneath the roots of a black tree, where glowing fungi pulsed in rhythm. A third showed a ruined temple overgrown with vines, a fountain still trickling with silver water. Each vision faded after a moment, and the orb settled back beside Rowan. He understood now. To rekindle the heart of the forest, he would need to visit each of these sacred places. The paths were trials, journeys, lessons, but not dangerous ones, not cruel, just important. Rowan smiled, heart fluttering with quiet anticipation. "Which one first?" he asked the orb. It drifted toward the path of the mountain, and Rowan followed, lantern swaying gently at his side. As he began the climb, soft snow began to fall. Not cold, not sharp, but soft and slow, like ash from an ancient star. And ahead, on the mountain trail, a warm fire glowed at the base of a stone gate. The mountain trail was not steep, but it wound like a silver ribbon up the slopes, flanked by pines that whispered even in still air. Rowan's boots crunched softly over snow that shimmered faintly in the lantern light. The orb hovered just ahead, casting a faint blue glow that danced across the frozen branches. As Rowan climbed, he began to notice stone markers along the path. Tall pillars etched with unfamiliar runes. Each one glowed faintly as he passed, and the air around them carried the scent of smoke and old pine. At a bend in the trail, Rowan came upon a small stone shelter, half buried in the snow. Inside, a figure sat near a fire. A man, robed in faded crimson, with a long beard like twisted ivy and eyes that glowed like coals. He nodded as Rowan approached, as though he had been waiting. "Welcome, lantern-bearer," the man said. His voice was rough but kind. "You've come seeking the flame." Rowan nodded. "Yes, to rekindle the heart of the forest." The man gestured for him to sit by the fire. Then you must learn to hold fire in stillness, to listen to its hush, not its roar. Rowan sat, hands outstretched to the warmth. The fire was different. It didn't crackle or spit. It pulsed with a steady rhythm, like a heart, slow and deep. Many fear fire because they only know its hunger, the man continued. But fire is also memory, stillness, a guardian of warmth. You must carry that warmth without waking the hunger. He reached into the fire and drew out a glowing coal. It floated, suspended in the air like a tiny sun. Rowan watched as the man placed it gently into a small vessel carved of stone and set it before him. You must walk the final slope, the man said. Without letting the flame flicker, let your breath match its rhythm. Let your fear fall away. Rowan nodded. The path ahead awaited. He stood, took the vessel with both hands, and began the final climb. The snow deepened, the wind rose, but Rowan focused on the flame. He matched his breath to its steady pulse. One step, then another. The trees grew thinner, and the sky opened above him, vast and silver. At the peak, a circle of standing stones awaited. In its center, an altar of ancient ice. Rowan approached and placed the vessel on the altar. The flame leapt upward, not wild but tall and graceful. It danced in silence, casting warm light across the stones. One by one, the runes on each stone lit up, and the mountain itself seemed to exhale. Then, the flame shimmered and compressed into a small golden ember. It floated to Rowan and hovered before his chest. He reached out, and it drifted into his lantern. The glow inside shifted, deeper now with a faint orange hue. One path complete, for more to go. As Rowan descended the mountain, the snow fell more softly, the wind faded, and the forest below welcomed him with open arms. Back at the clearing of 5 paths, the pedestal glowed again. Rowan placed the lantern into its holder, and this time the second path lit up, the path that led downward into shadow and soil. The orb drifted toward it. Rowan followed. Rowan stepped onto the second path, where the ground dipped gently downward into thick clusters of twisted trees. The canopy above darkened, woven so tightly with branches that only threads of light slipped through. The orb ahead cast a cool, calming glow, while Rowan's lantern, now warmed with the ember from the mountain, shone with a richer, deeper orange. The trail narrowed as it descended. Moss clung to stone and bark alike, and soft fungi glowed faintly along the roots. The air smelled of earth after rain, rich, ancient, and still. Eventually, the path became a tunnel not dug by hand, but carved by time. Roots arched overhead, forming a living ceiling. Vines brushed Rowan's shoulders as he passed, and he could hear the soft sound of water trickling somewhere deep below. Here silence ruled, but it wasn't empty. It was a silence full of listening, of watching, and as Rowan pressed deeper into the rooted deep, he understood that this place remembered everything. At a bend in the tunnel, Rowan came upon an ancient tree, its trunk wide as a cottage. Carved into its bark was a door.
No handle, no hinge.
Just an outline and a soft, breathing glow. He raised his lantern. The light spilled over the bark, and slowly, the door opened inward with the sound of rustling leaves. Inside was a chamber of roots, coiling and curling like the ribs of some sleeping creature. In the center was a pool so still it looked like black glass. Above it hung a cluster of faintly glowing seed pods. A voice echoed softly, like wind through hollow bark. The roots remember all. To move forward, you must offer a memory, one you carry with care. Rowan knelt by the pool. He thought of his childhood in Elderglen, of his mother singing lullabies as she lit the lanterns outside their home, of the first time he made a lantern by himself and how it flickered awkwardly, yet beautifully. He placed a hand on the surface of the pool. A ripple spread, and a faint glow rose from his palm, an image soft as candlelight. His mother's smile, the warmth of the hearth, the comfort of simple days. The seed pods above bloomed, slowly, one by one. Soft green light poured down into the pool, and from its depths rose a figure, tall, gentle, woven from root and vine. It bowed to Rowan. "You carry warmth in your past," it said, voice low and soothing. "And now you may carry what lies beneath." It reached toward the lantern and pressed a root finger to its glass. A new light joined the ember already inside, green and gold, like spring sunlight through old leaves. Rowan emerged from the rooted deep with soil on his boots and calm in his heart. He returned to the clearing and placed the lantern on the pedestal once more. Now 2 paths glowed. The third, curving east toward the sound of falling water, lit up gently. A soft mist gathered at its edge. The orb floated onward, and Rowan followed. The third path led eastward, where the trees gave way to mist and the air grew damp with the scent of moss and stone. Rowan's lantern flickered warmly beside him, its soft golden-orange glow now touched with green. The orb floated low, dancing gently over puddles that reflected the sky like liquid mirrors. As Rowan walked, he heard it, the steady hush of falling water, not loud or forceful, but calm, as if whispering lullabies to the earth. The sound pulled him forward. He passed under hanging vines and over smooth stepping stones. Birds called softly overhead, and now and then, drops of water plinked from leaves like bells in a forgotten chapel. Finally, the path opened to a wide basin carved into the hillside, where an ancient temple stood cradled by cliffs and waterfalls. The stone structure rose in graceful tiers, with pools on each level that overflowed into the next. The water flowed endlessly, always moving, yet never rushing. The whole place seemed to breathe. Rowan stood at the edge of the basin, admiring the serenity. At the base of the temple was a circular gate of polished silver, and etched upon it was a message. "Speak the truth you carry. Let your voice become the water." A quiet challenge. Rowan stepped forward, unsure what to say at first. Then he looked into his lantern, into the glowing lights he had already gathered, flame and root, warmth and memory. He thought of his journey so far, of stepping beyond the veil of willow trees, of the woman who'd vanished into the woods, of the old flamekeeper on the mountain, and the root spirit in the deep. He cleared his throat softly. "My name is Rowan of Elderglen," he said gently, his voice carrying in the mist. "I make lanterns because light brings peace. I follow this path not because I am brave, but because I was called, and I want to see what lies in the quiet places." His voice echoed, soft at first, then layered like ripples across the water. The silver gate shimmered and slid open soundlessly. Inside, the temple glowed with reflected light. Water danced along carved channels in the stone, and every step Rowan took brought a new whisper, a faint echo of old voices. Songs, prayers, laughter. He reached the upper pool, where a pedestal rose from the water, holding a single object, a glass vial filled with glowing liquid. The orb floated beside it, waiting. Rowan reached out. The moment his fingers touched the vial, a tone rang through the temple, pure and calming. The liquid shimmered, then rose into the air like mist and poured into his lantern. A third light joined the others, silver blue, like moonlight on still water. Rowan left the temple slowly, the mist parting around him like a soft curtain. His heart was calm, his thoughts gentle. Back at the clearing, the pedestal welcomed the lantern once more. 3 lights now pulsed within. The orb drifted toward the fourth path, a trail of soft wind and falling leaves. And Rowan followed again. The fourth path stretched like a ribbon through tall grasses and wildflowers that swayed in waves, even though no breeze was felt on Rowan's face, at least not at first. The sky above this trail was a little wider, the trees more spaced apart, and the very air shimmered faintly like rising heat or breath on glass. The orb ahead floated higher now, catching small motes of light that sparkled and vanished. Rowan's lantern glowed softly with the 3 lights he had already gathered: mountain fire, root light, and echo water. But this path, it felt different, lighter, like laughter waiting to be found. As he walked, Rowan began to hear faint sounds: whistles, flutes, and the rustling of leaves. The wind here wasn't a single gust or breeze. It was many voices, soft and curious, winding through the trees. Somewhere above, small ribbon-like beings danced between the branches. Tiny spirits made of wind and thread light. They giggled and spun, forming shapes and patterns that dissolved just as quickly. Rowan smiled to himself. He had always imagined the wind as playful, but this was proof. The path curved into a sun-dappled glade, where willow trees stood tall, their long arms twirling gently even though Rowan felt no strong wind. In the center of the glade was a stone circle with a tall, slender column. Hanging from the column was a ring of silver chimes, silent, still. Rowan approached. As he stepped within the circle, the wind changed. A breeze curled around him, lifting his hair, tugging at his cloak. Then, from nowhere, a soft and lilting voice said, "To carry the wind, you must let go of weight. Speak aloud what you do not need, what you've outgrown." Rowan stood very still. He thought of his cottage, his workshop, and the fear that had always whispered in his heart. The fear of stepping beyond the village, of not being strong enough, brave enough, worthy enough. He exhaled slowly. "I let go of the thought that I must stay small," he whispered, "that I must remain in comfort to be safe." The chimes stirred gently. "I let go of fear that does not serve." The chimes rang, a clear, sweet tone, and the wind began to rise. Not in fury, no storm, but a lifting wind, a joyful one. It whirled through the glade, rustling leaves and tugging Rowan's lantern gently. The silver chimes lifted higher, spun, and burst into light. From their glow emerged a single white feather, caught in the spiral of wind. It floated toward Rowan and drifted into his lantern. The fourth light joined the others, soft and white gold, like dawn breaking through clouds. As the wind stilled, the glade hushed again, and Rowan bowed slightly toward the dancing spirits overhead, who clapped with delight before vanishing into the trees. Back at the pedestal, he placed the lantern down once more. For lights now glowed inside, pulsing together like a slow heartbeat. Only one path remained, the fifth, arched with ivy and bathed in twilight. The orb lingered at its entrance, pulsing faintly, and Rowan, with no hesitation, followed. The fifth and final path began with silence. No wind,
No birds.
no rustling trees, only quiet, as if the world were holding its breath. The ivy-covered arch that marked the path was taller than the others and woven with pale blossoms that glowed faintly, like stars caught in leaves. Rowan passed beneath it, and the air changed, cooler now, thicker, like early morning fog. The orb floated low, slow and steady, as though urging stillness. The trail curved downward, deeper into shadow, where the trees grew closer together. The roots rose from the ground like steps and bridges, forming natural arches and walls. Light filtered in from above, dappled and dim, and time seemed to stretch and slow. Soon, Rowan entered what felt like a cavern beneath the forest. There was no stone here, only root and earth, woven together in great domes and chambers. It was as if the forest itself had built a cathedral beneath the soil. And in the center of the deepest chamber he saw it, a great tree, ancient beyond measure, its bark like polished onyx and veins of silver light pulsing beneath its surface. At its base, the ground was soft and still, covered in moss and blossoms, and nestled within a hollow in its trunk was an empty lantern holder. Rowan approached slowly, reverently. As he neared the tree, visions stirred in his mind. Memories of Elderglen, of quiet evenings beside the hearth, of friends laughing over cups of cider, of making lanterns by moonlight. But more than that, dreams. Dreams of what might be, places unseen, people yet met, stories unwritten, and a voice, deep, warm, ancient, rose gently into his thoughts. "You have brought the lights of flame, root, water, and wind, but to awaken the heart you must offer your own light. Not memory, not lesson, but hope." Rowan took a breath. He opened the lantern's door. Inside, the four lights shimmered, waiting. He placed both hands on the lantern. "I hope," he whispered, "that this light brings peace to others, that it guides those who feel lost, warms those who feel cold, and reminds the tired that rest is near. The lights inside began to swirl, spinning slowly at first, then faster, blending together until they became a soft, golden glow, warm as sunrise. Rowan placed the lantern into the tree's hollow. At once, the glow spread into the bark, up the branches, and across the roots. The heart of the forest had been rekindled. The roots pulsed with light, and the chamber brightened with gentle color. All around, soft lights began to rise, like fireflies or spirits waking from a long sleep. The forest exhaled, and Rowan smiled. Later, back at the clearing of 5 paths, the pedestal stood quiet. The orb hovered once more beside him, pulsing faintly. The journey was complete, but something had changed in Rowan. Not just the light he carried, but the stillness, the quiet joy, the peace of knowing he had walked far and returned. He made his way back toward Elderglen, through willow branches now touched with golden light. The trees whispered greetings. The moss beneath his boots hummed softly. As the village came into view, lanterns already glowing in windows, Rowan felt something settle in his heart. Not an ending, a beginning, for the light within him would never go out. And in quiet moments, when the wind whispered and the night grew still, he would remember the flame, the root, the water, the wind, and the dream that lit the forest from within.